That's what we do. We make dreams happen.
Work with the right people, buy the right deal first. One of my favorite topics, money.
Well, here we are back again.
I know. Thanks for coming out. You know, I gotta say, when I sent you this deal, I was like, there's no way she's going to come out here. I was anticipating just buying it myself. But you got your ass on the plane.
I showed up, right?
And you showed up.
I even had my bum leg too, and I made it even without crutches. So.
Yeah, you hobbled your way to across the nation.
Yeah.
So, with your entourage.
Again, my life auxiliary.
At some point in life, I'm going to have my own entourage too.
Yeah. You'll get
carrying my bags throughout the airport.
Yeah.
So,
actually, with TSA too, they're super nice to you. And I've been on crutches having to travel. I get like scooted in front and everything. It's been a great treatment. So if you're ever in a rush, take crutches and hobble your way through the airport and you'll get VIP treatment through security.
Are you one of those people that have the fake handicap pass too?
Yeah.
So
I'm the person that refuses to be wheelchaired through the airport and I crutch my way through. Anyways, thank you so much for having me out. It was really cool to see the property, but the best part was learning from you as to what you do when you do a walkthrough of the property and what you look for and different things that you think of. And so that was a really unique and cool experience for me to get to do that with you and to pick your brain as we went through it. So, but now I'm ready to do this deal and we got to sign our joint venture agreement. But first, before we actually go through the agreement, this is my first time ever doing a joint venture agreement. Do you think you could kind of explain to me what the difference of this joint venture agreement is compared to like us partnering on an LLC? Because I've only ever done partnerships through an LLC and never a joint venture agreement.
Yeah, and so typically there's two ways that we do this kind of transaction where we're bringing in any kind of passive investor into the deal. Mm-hmm. There's the main way, or one of the main ways that we've done it is we create a new LLC for that property, or if with somebody that we're going to do a long-term partnership with, we'll create a new entity, and then one of our entities and their entities will own that 50-50 at that point. That works really well when you always know you're going to be 50-50 partners and you're going to be doing a lot of deals together. The one thing with us is we also, at some point, let's say this goes well and you go, James, you just gave me the best deal ever. I want to give you all my money and my deed to my house. We might have other deals too down the road that you might not have half the capital for. You might only have 10, let's say I'm doing a huge project and you have 100 grand and I need $1 million to do it. You might only have 10%. So if we had set up that LLC and done the 50-50, that's not going to work for that type of transaction. So it boxes me in to how I can kind of work with people down the road, or boxes two people in. The other thing that is kind of gets a little frustrating with those is when we do it with all LLCs and we have a lot of different partners, we have to file separate K-1s and tax returns for every one of those entities, which costs us more on accounting, which actually starts requiring us to pay the investors less equity. The more cost that we have to run that project, we have to kind of build that against the equity at that point. So it allows us to kind of be a little bit more fluid with less cost as well to kind of give a better return. So the way we talked about was LLC, we partner 50-50, but then we're locked in with that model. So the way that we're going to do this one, because who knows what deal we might do next, or if we even do another deal down the road, we're going to do something called a joint venture agreement. So what it means is we're going to actually purchase the property under our name and our title. This is our entity. And the one other thing that's really important that I missed with the LLC is in Washington State, before you invest in any deals, you have to know what the laws and regulations are. So in Washington State, for you to buy and sell a property, you need to be a licensed and bonded contractor, or you need to hire a general for everything. And unfortunately, our entity is a licensed and bonded entity. But if we create a new entity, even if we're a managing member of that entity is 50%, what the L&I does not look at us as a general contractor at that point. So we would have to go get a bond and a new business formed if we also put you on title as a 50-50 owner. They will not accept it as us being 50% owners.
Interesting.
So that would require more cost, right? We got to get a bond. Then we got to go file our paperwork. We have to, so it's just, it's kind of an annoying thing. So in the joint venture, we're already licensed and bonded, so we're in that regulation. We're going to title that property in our entity at that point. You're going to be contributing 50% of the capital, and that's the agreement that we worked out in Seattle, right? You're going to come up 50% of capital. We're going to run all the project. We're making our commission on the front, commission on the back to kind of offset for running our projects at that point. And then what we're going to do is the purpose of the joint venture agreement is to give you a template and an outlet with how this investment engine is going to go.
Yeah. One thing I never thought of was the difference for taxes too. Like when you are doing an LLC, you have the partnership tax return and the K-1s to each person. And then for a joint venture.
Yeah, it keeps it way simpler,
yeah.
right? Because now you're just an expense to the profit against us. So we can still run our books like normal with all our other flips. And at the same time, we're just paying you out as you're basically like a preferred lender, right? It's a cost to the deal. Here's the joint venture agreement that we sent out to you. This is kind of a template. What I'm going to need from you is a copy of your entity or how you want to title the property.
Okay.
Or not title
put
the
it
property.
Into the joint venture agreement. Yeah.
So this is the same agreement that we've used with one of our other partners on other deals. So I wanted to get this over to you so you can review it. Anytime that you're investing in anybody else's property, I highly advise that you take this agreement, even though we're friends and we've known each other now for, a couple of years. I definitely don't want to rip off a BiggerPockets host, but you can't take that all into your decision-making, right? You can't be like, hey, this is just a really good guy.
Right. And you have to verify still.
You need to verify, right? Like, where did the agreement come from? Take that agreement and have your attorney review it. Anything you're signing always where you're issuing money, if you don't understand it or you didn't write it, have it reviewed. So I please do have that done. Again, that's up to you. But
even if I think that I know it, I should still have it reviewed because there's something that I could be missing, and why not have a second set of eyes on it?
Yeah, I mean, imagine, and that happens a lot, right? People invest in friends' deals and they go sideways. So you want to make sure that it's a legally binding agreement, because if you get in a dispute with your operator or your friend and it's all kind of verbal and the paperwork's not good, that's going to be, it's not going to protect your money well. So make sure you protect it. So the purpose of this agreement.
Also on my side of things, I want to know what my responsibility is as part of this joint venture agreement, because I don't want to let you down either.
Yes. And that talks, because what you're doing is you're bringing in the capital or half the capital. In this agreement, we'll kind of go through this, it's going to break down what happens if you run out of cash too. Because all these things, what really needs to be listed in your joint venture agreement is who are the entities that are working together? What's the subject property or the investment engine that you're actually partnering on? Then you need to go into how does the capital work? Who's contributing what kind of capital and who's doing what at that point? And in the case of an event that something goes wrong, let's say for some reason you were going to come up with 100, and then all of a sudden you're like, I can only come up with 75. And then we have to come up with the other 25%. In this agreement, it breaks down how that works. So if we're coming up with more cash, that's going to dilute your ownership and profit out of the deal.
Okay.
And so, and all these things always need to be in your agreement, right? So these joint venture agreements are very simple in nature, but it talks about who the companies are that are involved. Then it goes into the Article 1 joint venture agreement. What is the purpose of this? The purpose of this is to acquire residential properties, to secure equity debt financing if necessary. So that's giving us authorization to go get whatever debts we need, because I need to make sure that I don't have an investor getting in the way of my operations. So this goes over all my operations that I'm going to need to do on this property. I have the sole right to get whatever debt I want on this, because I need to make sure I can move things around at that point. Okay. And then it goes into that there is no partnership created. This is just for the purpose of this one property.
Okay.
Because if your joint venture agreement is creating a partnership, then that can dilute other deals you do down the road, right? If I'm all of a sudden have you sign this and it doesn't say that, and then you invest in one of my other deals later and you go, well, this agreement said I make 50-50 and it's a partnership.
Oh, but if that one was, 60-40 or something like that.
Yes, it could kind of backfire on me. So a lot
Right.
of this language in here, and that's why we have protected ourselves in this agreement as well. And that's why you want to have an attorney review it.
Right.
And we do feel like we protected you as well on this agreement.
Mhm.
So what it talks about is the most important part of this though is percentage ownerships right here. So we're going to have Everose, which is our entity, and then you're going to have your entity that we're going to put in at 50-50, as long as you have 50% of the capital. We're going to put in all our contact information, and then it's going to talk about our responsibilities to you at this point. And that is our responsibility is we're going to find we're going to assist with the acquisition of the property. We're going to check the title. It's going to be vested in our name, and then we're going to own 50% of the property and facilitate the project.
Okay.
You will contribute 50% of the cash equity needed to acquire, renovate that property. And if it exceeds that amount, exceeds the amounts so 50% of the anticipated or anything that exceeds that amount. So no matter what, you're going to be putting in 50% of this deal. Again, if you for some reason are short, luckily with us as operators, we're a little bit more liquid. And so we can come up with the difference. So if it's a stressful thing for you, just communicate, we can kind of allocate accordingly. But that is something you always want to know. Can the operator come up with cash if they need to? And then how does that work for the ownership in the property?
Okay. So say in this scenario, all of a sudden we add, another $50,000 or $80,000 to the rehab budget or something like that. So if we decided that, maybe I'm only going to put in, 10,000 of that and you're going to put in the rest, will we change the ownership percentage then?
Yes. Yeah. So what we would do is, because what we would do in that specific scenario, and that's a great question, we would take the total lump sum of cash that has been deployed throughout the life of that project.
Yeah.
We're going to take the cash that you've invested and we're going to divide it. And then that's going to kick out your ownership percentage of the property. Okay. And so, but at the end of the day, we are expecting you to fund the 50%.
Right. 50, yeah. Okay.
And so then this goes over, and then it talks about other things, responsibilities to Everose. It talks about that we're going to have insurance on the property. So there's things that outside of just the projections and the money, you want to make sure that your operator has all their ducks in a row. We in their agreement saying that we're going to provide insurance for the property through our construction loan, that we're going to pull all of our licenses that we need to purchase that property and facilitate that transaction. And so that should always be you want to make sure you go through this responsibilities of Everose at that point. And then at the very end, it says Everose shall devote sufficient time, expertise, and efficient operations in the business and renovation of the sale of the property. So that says that we're the ones operating the deal at that point. So all of a sudden you don't just, because one thing that could happen like on a scam, this is a scam check right here. If an operator came to you and go, hey, Ashley, I got a great deal for you. You're going to put up 50% of the money. I'm going to put up 50% of the money. We're going to close. And then they take a big fee up front too on that deal. They might just get the money, close the deal. You got the property, and then they walk away because it doesn't say anywhere in the agreement that they need to do anything.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And if you sell that property later down the road with them, they can take the money anyways, because again, it's not specified. Yeah. So no handshake deals, paperwork only.
Okay. Got it.
And then this talks about different rights and obligations of the joint ventures, that you have a right to inspect all of our QuickBooks and accounting at any time, whenever you want. Yeah. Right. You need access to that if you need it. Right. If all of a sudden we get to the very end, I go, hey, Ashley, I know we were thinking about making a 40% return, but you only made 3% and we sold it for more. You're going to be like, what? Yeah. But if you don't have rights to look at those things, you need to go through them as well. You should have equal right.
Because if this wasn't in here and I asked for them, you could easily deny me access because that's for your LLC and I'm not a partner of that LLC or have anything to do with that.
Correct. Yeah. So it gives you, and we put this all in for you, and this should be in any joint venture agreement.
Yeah. Because there shouldn't be anything that you'd want to hide.
No, exactly.
If I'm doing this with anyone. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, if someone gives you a joint venture agreement and you punch a ton of holes in it and you have a ton of questions at the end, I would be concerned because they're trying to keep you in a certain box at that point.
Right. Okay.
And then it talks about withdrawal of joint venture. you're not allowed to voluntarily reassign or otherwise withdraw from this joint venture. Neither are we. We can't kick you out for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I can't go, hey, Ashley, here's your money back. See you later.
Yeah. So like for example, if the property decide you can sell it for 200,000 more than you thought, you're going to say, oh, Ashley, here's your money back. I'm going to do this deal on my own, actually. Right.
Exactly. Like you don't want someone that can force you out of the deal.
Yeah. Okay.
So you always make sure that that's protected at that point, because weird things happen. That definitely happens to people. And also it's a way, the most comfortable, safest way for you is to go on title, right? That guarantees that they can't sell that property. They can't refinance that property. It blocks a ton of things to where the operator can't do those things. And it also means they can't just kick you out at any time. Because you're not on title, you're already authorizing those things that we just talked about in our agreement. In addition to, it says we can't just kick you out.
Okay.
And so it gives you an extra layer of security. And then it talks about the initial capital that we are anticipated at the end of the project. Like we talked about, it was going to be around 75,000 when we first looked at it. After going through the numbers, we increased some of the budget. We're going to change some of the scope of work. We're now anticipating that you're going to put in about 97,500. That's going to be your initial contribution, because that will put you at about 50% of the cash. Okay. Again, where it goes into right here, additional contributions in the event, this is going to, and I want you to read through this, in the event we run out of capital, what's the procedure from there?
One thing is there like a certain timeline? Okay. So say there is a capital call for the contributions. What's the kind of the process for that? Is that described into here?
That is not in this, that is not broken down too much, because that's where you kind of get a little bit more granular, which wouldn't be a bad thing to add in if I really think about it. If I had people asking me for all that, what I would say the best way to protect that is to go, if we're thinking it's a 6-month project, we do check-ins. You could say, and that's why you have a right to review the books every month too. Right. You can look at these every month, or we can say at benchmarks. Okay. And so it would really go off benchmarks in construction of where you could put in check-ins, but I don't have those in there.
Okay. I was just wondering about that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And it does talk about, and the other part that's really important is handling the money correctly. Okay. I will say there is a lot of people out there right now just raising money, right? Like, hey, I got this deal, just give me money. Everything's going to go amazing. But you're wiring money into some guy's account or some person's account, and if you don't know him that well, you want to make sure that what happens if he's got 20 other projects going on, you're wiring money into that same account. And then he needs to check.
And this is a great thing to talk about for me, because look at me, I showed up with my checkbook ready to write a check and he wouldn't even accept the check.
Yes. Yeah. I was like, no, but you were basically like the lady at the supermarket that whips out their checkbook and everyone's got a debit card. And you're like, oh my gosh, really? You're going to fill this out right now? And then also, Ashley, that would take us 14 days to clear your account probably. So that's not going to help us in funding. That means we got to come up. That means we're giving you a loan for 14 days. But the biggest thing though, is that's your money and our money on this deal. Yeah. We don't want your money going into a bucket with all of our deals in it. That's commingling of funds. Yeah. And so in here, in this agreement, it talks about accounts that we're going to set up our own separate account for this agreement. And then all the money will be that ran through that account as well. Okay. So it's all very clean. And then it talks about allocation of profit and loss. Now notice, Ashley, it does say loss. Any deal that you invest in, right? If you are a joint venture partner, not only are you sharing in the upside, you're sharing in the downside. Yeah. And that's something that you should I want to make sure that you're 100% confident in and comfortable in before you sign this agreement and send us money. It's no matter what, we need to make sure anybody's coming inside one of our deals that they're level-headed. They understand that this is real estate and an investing engine. Sometimes it goes really, really well, most of the time with us. And then there's the times where it just doesn't. Okay. And, and what we've done, and that's why we spent so much time underwriting the deal, walking the property, putting our budgets, putting our eyes on it. We've done all of our due diligence to where we can walk in and feel really good about this property. Mm-hmm. But then there is random things that happen. And so, like something that we have to watch is like what's going to happen with interest rates. Interest rates could be rising while we are in the middle of this flip. that could have an impact against the performance.
Right.
And so I just want to make sure that you understand that. But it talks about allocation of net profit. Net profit on any for any calendar year of this joint venture shall be allocated between the joint ventures in the proportion of their percentage of interest. So you're going to get your profit on percentage of interest. And the only thing that's going to change your percentage of interest is if for some reason you don't have the cash to come up with.
Right.
Allocation of net loss. Net loss for any calendar year of the joint venture shall be allocated between the two joint ventures in a proposition for their percentage interest. Mm-hmm. So right now, if we lost 100 grand on this property, you're going to have to pay 50 of it.
Yeah.
Now, if the deal went sideways and we have to come up with additional capital and it dilutes your ownership, then you're losing less money because your ownership's diluted. So whatever your percentage is your net profit or loss. And then it talks about how is the funds handled from here. Again, these are very important things to have in your joint venture. So how we're doing our distributions, the first thing we're doing is we're going to pay myself back and yourself back the principal of the balance. That will happen the day after closing because we already know those numbers. And then our accounting department is going to run you a full P&L and we're going to usually cut out your profit about 10 days after, because there is last minute bills that are coming in on these properties, right? Like we might have to pay the stager a little bit, the utility bills, and we're going to close that whole account out before we issue you your net profit. And so, but no matter what, you'll get your initial cash back immediately. And then you'll get with your copy of your profit distribution, a copy of P&L, the HUD and everything that goes along with it.
Okay.
And then talks about, then goes into accounting and books, that we're handling the books, interest of returns. And so you luckily you're an accountant, so you understand this probably better than me.
Yeah.
Go through, but it's going to talk about what the books are, how we're handling those. And that anytime you can actually email our CPA and ask for an updated QuickBooks and you'll have access to those. So when you invest with us, you have full access to those books on that project.
Yeah.
And then talks about transferability, just to stop us selling. This is more standard jargon for this. There's always going to be your standard jargon in any legal contract. And then talks about
so like these would be the exit strategies here, the winding up.
Yes. This is what's going to end our joint venture relationship. It talks about how does that end? It needs to be in a written agreement or the sale of the business, which would be the property. And then at that point, this is then dissolved. There, because you got to have a start and an end date on these as well. So it goes through all the different types of legal jargon. Again, take this to an attorney, have them read all this. And then also you can see that we have our investment, we have certain disclaimers in there. Oh, that's a great point that we should talk about. If you're giving someone money and they don't have the proper disclosures in there that are required legally, that means they don't know what they're doing.
Okay.
And so those are things
my attorney would be able to point that out if it wasn't in there. Is it, so are you saying that disclosure is, nationwide, or is it like state specific?
Well, if you're it's also, a lot of times it's federal, like if it's with raising money or usually it's going to be a federal guideline at that point.
Like with the SEC that
Yeah, with the SEC. I mean, this isn't, because this is just a joint venture agreement. There's no, it's not
regulated. Yeah.
But what this does is it talks about what this actually is. This is an interest. This has not been registered as a U.S. Securities Act of 1933, right? So this is saying that this is not a security. You're not investing in security, that we are just doing this agreement only. Okay. And that's always a red flag for me when I'm investing in deals, is like, who are the operators and checking them out? Yeah. And so, but I do want you to go through this whole agreement, feel very comfortable with it. If you want to move forward, you're going to sign it, send it back to me. And I do need to know by tomorrow. Okay. And then once we sign that, you're going to wire us the money and we're going to proceed to close.
Okay.
And then from there, we're going to be going through the updates. We'll have you come out for a couple of those, and then we'll be keeping you up to speed on what's going on at the house.
Okay. That sounds good.
Do you have any more questions on this agreement?
No, I don't think so. I'm going to send it to my attorney and then maybe I will, but as of right now, I don't. Yeah,
it should be, this is kind of our standard agreement. I'll be curious to see if you came up with anything that's red flagging it.
Okay. Yeah. Love to poke holes in it.
Well, and now we are on to the deal. So,
okay.
Are you a little nervous?
I'm more excited than nervous, I would say.
But you just gave me $100,000 and you have only met me in person 4 times.
Yeah, but also think about that was probably the cost of my birthday party that you threw for me. So if anything, I'm just paying for my birthday party.
Most expensive birthday party ever.
Okay.
So, well, I'm really excited to do this. Yeah, I think it's gonna be a great deal. And I actually think we're gonna totally crush this thing out.
Yeah.
So, well, give me back that agreement. Let's get the wire going. And then from there, we're gonna proceed on getting this thing worked on.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Cool.
Okay.